Hi everyone, it's Nicole here with a card created using the Simon Says Stamp November 2018 card kit called Thanks and Leaves. This design was inspired by Jennifer McGuire, a card she did a while back. I wanted to talk a little bit today about being inspired by others when maybe you are at a place where you just can't seem to figure out what kind of card you want to make. And sometimes to break through that creative barrier, it's really helpful to find a design that you like and either make it your own, kind of make one, very similar, something like that, because that generally promotes creativity. For me, that very much is the case. And so I had asked Jennifer if I could share a card created using a design she had done a while back, and she graciously said yes. So this is kind of my take on her card. If you're curious exactly which one it is, I will be linking to it in my blog post, and I'll also link to it here underneath in the description below this video. I have this scrap of Yupo paper here. I tend to keep all of my little scraps of these papers. And I am applying some alcohol inks to this. The colors are very much inspired by the kit and also by fall. I'm using terracotta, butterscotch, Valencia, gold mixative, and honeycomb. And I'm just kind of playing with them, adding some blending solution, blowing it around with my straw until I'm happy with it. And then I'm going to let that completely air dry while I kind of work on some other parts of the design. I'm going to use some of the ivory cardstock from the November kit. This is trimmed down to 4 by 5¼ inches. And from this, I am going to use the Simon Says Stamp repeating circles to die cut some little frame openings. I'm going to be using alcohol lift ink with some of the leaf designs from the Thanks and Leaves stamp set. This is available for individual purchase or included in the November kit, the stamp set is. But I want to create this beautiful fall background with those kind of ghost-like looking leaves. And see how pretty that alcohol ink looks peeking through these windows. I've also got a thankful greeting. I tried to find something, a die cut greeting, that would work with one of the smaller phrases from the stamp set. And I picked the Simon Says Stamp Thankful, die cut from gold glitter cardstock, and also some of the ivory cardstock. We're going to layer that on top. And then we'll stamp our little phrase that's going to go with this that says, "We appreciate you so much," on some of the orange peel cardstock from the kit. When using the alcohol lift ink, I find it's really handy to use a stamp positioner tool for perfect placement. Also, if you need to stamp it more than once. I will tell you, I did not stamp these more than once today. I did pick up an alcohol lift ink re-inker because I thought the ink pad I got wasn't super juicy. And I thought that I was really having to stamp my images a lot to get a really good lift ink. And I noticed by re-inking it, I'm getting much better results. So if you are finding that, you might want to pick up a lift ink re-inker as well. Now I am not laying these out super pretty because we're only going to be seeing little peeks of these peeking through our windows. So because we're only going to see little snippets of them here and there, I didn't worry about maybe making the most pretty design on the background. Now when I lifted these up, they did pick up a little bit of the alcohol ink, so I'm cleaning them with a stamp cleaner before inking them up with the alcohol lift ink. And then I am just going to make sure that I ink this up really well and press this into my alcohol ink background. When I lift this up, you don't really see too much of the leaf design yet. Now I'm going to take a dry paper towel and I'm going to keep moving it to a clean area, but I like to just kind of press it once, and you can kind of see some of those leaves start to take shape. I'm going to flip it over to another clean side, press that again, And then I just kind of dabbed a little bit, making sure. I like to dab, and my very last resort is to start rubbing. And once you start doing that, I think you really start to see the leaves take shape. You can see that they're really starting to show up. So here I'm just going to start kind of a little clean corner and just rub off any of that excess ink, and look at those gorgeous leaves. Now I'm going to take my frame that I die cut and lay that over the design, because there's a couple of spots that I think are missing some leaves that I could fill in with more. So I want to go ahead and grab those, stamp 2 more leaves to fill in a couple areas that I think are maybe a little bit light and need a little something. Again, same technique as before. Also, I'm just going to kind of move that to the side. Add in my little leaves and things, press that in. Again, I like to clean the leaves because you don't want your alcohol lift ink pad to pick up that color from the alcohol ink. So I clean them before I actually ink them and stamp them. Again, you can see you don't really see the leaf designs. So I'm going to take my dry paper towel and I'm just going to dab first both areas where I stamped those new leaves, and we're just going to keep kind of dabbing, removing that excess alcohol lift ink, and then I'm going to rub with the tip of, or a clean little area of my paper towel until it starts to take shape and you really can see those leaves. And the more I remove, the more you can see that. And when I pop over the frame, look how pretty that is. The perfect fall background. Now this is some of the orange peel cardstock from the kit, and I'm going to take a powder tool to deactivate, stamp my sentiment from the Thanks and Leaves stamp set. I chose the We Appreciate You So Much sentiment. I'm going to stamp that along the top with a clear embossing ink and heat set with, I believe I used the Simon Says Stamp Antique Gold Embossing Powder. Thought that would complement the gold glitter cardstock, and also some Nuvo crystal drops that I'm going to add here in a second. So once I get this heat set, I'm going to take my Tonic trimmer and trim this into a thin strip that I can pop below my die cut greeting. Now included in the how about November card kit are these beautiful Tim Holtz Ideology Butterflies adornments, and they're silver, and they definitely would be beautiful as is, but I thought it would be fun to see if I could use alcohol ink on them to add some color. So I'm going to kind of pick a couple of them because you get all 6 of these in the kit. They're really beautiful, intricate butterflies, and I think I'm going to use a couple of them on my card. And I just went ahead and took 1 color per butterfly that I'm using, applied some of the ink to the butterfly, and then I let it sit and completely dry. So I added the alcohol ink, let it dry, and I'm going to go ahead and work on putting the rest of my card together, starting with putting adhesive all the way around the edge of my frame, popping that over my alcohol inked background. And look how pretty that is. I love these leaves peeking out from behind the window openings. I'm going to put a nice little thin line of glue on the back of the die cut glitter Thankful Sentiment and pop that onto the ivory greeting, the kind of shadow greeting here. That's going to help it really stand out from the background a little bit more. This is a pretty delicate greeting, and I think it sometimes tends to blend into the background if you just place it directly on there, unless you wanted to maybe put it on some foam adhesive or something like that to help it stand out. I'm actually going to pop the whole thing up with foam adhesive squares. I'm a big fan of giving a little bit of dimension just to help make that sentiment really shine. So we're going to use the smaller size scrapbook adhesives, foam adhesive squares, on the back of the die cut thankful word. And then I'm going to pop that onto my card. And then use some of the foam adhesive strips to adhere the phrase strip right underneath that. So let's remove the backing paper from these little squares first. And because this strip is going to kind of go over part of the greeting, I'm going to split my foam adhesive underneath the phrase strip. You will see that here in a second. So now I'm going to trim off the ends of my phrase strip, and I'm going to take this little strip of foam adhesive, which this is my favorite way to attach little strips like this, and I'm just going to adhere it so that there's a little space in between where it goes over the loop in the word or in the letter F. So it's going to straddle that, and it won't be kind of funny and bulky that way. Just try to get that lined up as much as possible. Once we have our greetings down, it's time to finish with our embellishments. So I'm double checking to see if my alcohol ink is dry, and it looks like it is completely dry, and I'm going to attach these with some foam adhesive as well. So we're just going to put some of these little square foam adhesive squares on the back of the butterfly and pop that in place. And then I'm trying to decide which other butterfly I want to use, and I definitely want to pick one that kind of goes with the size and scale. That first one I grabbed there I thought was a little too big. So I'll take this one, and I'm just going to add another color, and I'm going to let that dry, air dry completely. It really does dry really fast, but because I kind of put it on there kind of thick, I just like to let it sit and completely dry. In fact, I move it out of that little puddle on my paper towel. And while I'm waiting for it to dry, I'm going to take some Nuvo crystal drops. And I originally thought I'd use this gold glitter, but I think it's way, way, way too clear. So I'm going to actually use copper penny and pale gold, which are two of my favorite colors to use, especially for fall themed projects, because I just think they're so stunning and they work really nicely with the fall themed alcohol ink colors I used here. And I want to do a little scattering that kind of follows the design of the card. So it's going to kind of come up from those butterflies and then down below the sentiment and kind of make a greater than sign, if you will, because it kind of does that kind of little brackety type shape as far as kind of coming from the top left corner or kind of just left of center, and comes down to the right side of the card and works its way back down to just left of the center on the bottom of the card, if that makes sense. So just kind of follows a nice natural flow of the card as far as the butterflies go and where the sentiment is positioned on the design. And that way we don't want to cover up too much of the wonderful alcohol lift ink background we have there. And I'm still letting that alcohol ink dry, so I'm going to go ahead and put my foam adhesive on my white top fold card base while I'm waiting. And this is going to give just another very thin, simple layer of adhesive, or dimension. Yes, adhesive, but dimension, for a pretty clean and simple card design. We'll pop our panel in place here. And again, we will adhere the second butterfly with foam adhesive as well. And it's mostly going to be over some of the ivory part of the cardstock. So you're still going to see the really pretty alcohol lift ink windows in the background. I hope this has given you some ideas on how to work past a creative block when you want to create, but you maybe don't know exactly what to make. If you use someone else's design, I really want to encourage everyone to make sure you give credit, you ask permission before you share. It's such a big issue and such a problem out there. And so when you are inspired by someone, please just make sure to give credit where credit is due. So thank you so much, Jennifer, for allowing me to share this card inspired by one you made. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this card created using the Simon Says Stamp November 2018 card kit. The supplies I used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more cards featuring Simon Says Stamp that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.